Before she made America laugh, Carol Burnett cried herself to sleep in a one-room apartment. This is not just a story about laughter. It's about 13 secrets that shaped one of Hollywood's most beloved icons. Carol's childhood wasn't just hard, it was heartbreaking. She lived in a cramped one-room apartment in Hollywood with her grandmother because both her parents were alcoholics. Her mother drank through her bitterness. Her father disappeared into addiction. They were so poor, Carol once said, they had to steal toilet paper from movie theaters just to get by. But her Manny, her grandmother May, was her anchor. They'd go to the movies every Saturday. In the dark, Carol learned how to dream. That little girl, sitting in a broken home, pretending to be okay, would one day become the woman who made the world laugh. But not before she learned how to survive pain. Quietly. Years later, Carol described a strange, almost holy moment. She said she had a vision, standing in that same one-room apartment as an adult. Her mother and grandmother were fighting again, and in the corner sat her 7-year-old self, quietly drawing. Carol walked over in that vision and put a hand on her shoulder. "You're going to get through this," she whispered. No audience, no camera. Just a moment of grace from the woman she became to the little girl she once was. Carol's father was mostly gone, but for one brief moment he came back. He'd quit drinking for a while to take care of his dying mother. Carol remembered the way he looked at her that day. "When I looked in his eyes," she said, "I had a dad. He was home." But after the funeral, he fell apart again. He showed up drunk. That moment shattered something inside her. "It was the most disappointed I've ever been," she later said. Some hearts break in silence. Hers did in slow motion, and no one ever saw. Before Broadway, before TV, Carol was a college girl with a big dream and no money. Then one day, in a small San Diego theater, a couple approached her and her boyfriend. The man offered each of them a $1,000 loan. No contract, no interest. Just a request. "Don't tell anyone who I am. Pay it back in 5 years. And pass the kindness along." She did all three. Years later, she called him a little angel. Sometimes it only takes one quiet believer to lift a lifetime. Carol's mother didn't want her to be an actress. "You can always write," she said, "no matter what you look like." Those words dug deep. Carol was already insecure, already wondering if she was enough. That comment from her own mother made her ashamed of her looks, her dreams, herself. So when she contorted her face on stage or dressed in wigs and costumes, it wasn't just comedy, it was courage. The girl who was told she wasn't pretty enough dissembled to laugh in the face of judgment. In 1977, Carol taped a family sketch where her character Eunice, sad, explosive, heartbreakingly real, was mocked on a game show. When the lights came up, the cast was in tears. Jim Neighbors was crying. Carol was shaken. The pain she poured into that scene wasn't acting. It was real. So real, she never watched it again. "I opened something inside me," she later said, "and I didn't know how to close it." That moment helped her realize, being funny doesn't mean you stop feeling. Sometimes it means you feel more than anyone else. On her show, Carol had one sacred rule: never break character during the family sketches. They were too real, too close to the bone. But one night, Tim Conway went rogue. He told a wild, improvised story about an elephant in a tutu. Carol tried to hold it in, but cracked. Dick Van Dyke followed. Even the deadpan Vicki Lawrence lost it. It was chaos. Joyous, honest, beautiful chaos. And just like that, the woman who carried everyone's pain let herself laugh. That moment reminded everyone watching, joy is real when it breaks through the cracks. Carol was back on Broadway. The show was a hit. Then, a taxi accident. Her neck was badly injured. She had to step away. The show never recovered. It closed. That could have been the end, but Carol saw it differently. She pivoted. That moment of pain sent her toward television, toward the Carol Burnett Show. Sometimes, what looks like a detour is the real road beginning. Carol's daughter, Carrie, was lost in addiction, and Carol, who knew addiction all too well from her parents, had to make a choice. She sent Carrie to rehab, not once, but 3 times. Carrie screamed, hated her, cut her off, but Carol stood firm, left her heart. But it saved Carrie's life. Carrie got sober, became a writer. They even wrote a play together. But then, cancer came. At 38, Carrie was gone. Carol never got those years back, but she got something deeper, the peace of knowing she did everything she could. After Carrie passed, Carol was lost. She flew to Chicago to produce a play her daughter had written, but she was broken. Before landing, she whispered a prayer. "If you're still with me, send me a sign." When she entered her hotel room, there it was, a bouquet of bird of paradise flowers, Carrie's favorite. The card read, Louise, Carrie's middle name. No one knew, not the director, not the hotel. Carol stood in silence, and she knew. "I'm here, Mom." In 2020, Carol's youngest daughter, Erin, was deep in addiction. Her 14-year-old grandson was at risk. So Carol stepped in. At 87 years old, she went to court. Not for fame, not for show, just to protect a child who needed her. She became his legal guardian, a second chance to give the love she knew how to give best. Even after decades of heartache, she hadn't closed her heart. She opened it wider. Carol's 20-year marriage to Joe Hamilton ended in pain, but what hurt most wasn't the divorce. It was losing Vicki Lawrence, her co-star, her friend. Vicki had taken a role in a spin-off Joe produced, without telling Carol. For years, they didn't speak. The pain was too raw, the betrayal too deep. Only after Joe's death did they begin to mend it. Behind the laughter of that perfect TV family was a real one, with real fractures. Carol Burnett's show was still a hit. CBS begged her to do one more season. But Carol said no. Not because the ratings were bad, but because she was tired of pretending to be okay. "I didn't want to fake it," she said. She didn't want to smile on stage while crying inside. She chose truth over applause, peace over pressure. The decision stunned the world, but saved her spirit. In a world that demands we keep going, Carol dared to stop. Here's a bonus one for her true fans. Fame brought strangers to her doorstep, literally. One day, a family walked to her front door, sat in her kitchen, and asked for a house tour. They had driven from Ohio. She asked them to leave. They got mad. That's the strange price of making people feel at home. Sometimes, they forget it's your home. But Carol never stopped inviting us in, even when it hurt. If Carol touched your heart, watch our tribute to Irene Ryan next. She was just as unforgettable. And if you remember watching Carol live, tell us your favorite moment. Which of these stories moved you most? Like this video and subscribe to the channel for more such fascinating stories revealing hidden truths. See you again.